Hello everyone. Today we will start our fifth chapter that is called the Mass Media and History. In this chapter we are going to learn and discuss how does the mass media happens in the past, or what was the importance of mass media that starts from the beginning. Okay, today we all are aware with the mass media. We are watching news on the news channels. We are reading the news in the newspaper. Okay, there are so many social media from where we get the updates on daily, or you can say hourly basis. But is that thing possible in the past? Whether people are able to get the latest update or the latest news, or what we see in the news channels like a breaking news. So nowadays mass media had increased, or mass media has reached the top level, but how it happens in the past. So in this chapter we will discuss about the mass media that happens in the past. So our whole chapter is divided into five important parts. Okay, what are these parts? The first part is introduction to mass media. First of all, we need to know what is the mass media and how it functions, what are the importance of the mass media. Second, history of mass media. As we all know, today's mass media or today's period, we are well aware about it. But what happens in the past, how people communicate with each other, how they pass the news to each other, how it been possible in the past. Third part will be how do we need why do we need mass media? Why mass media is necessary? We know the importance of mass media, right? Fifth, critical understanding of the information received through mass media. So the critical understanding, we know the critical understanding. Critical means in detail how the information are very much important in the mass media, because what we see that only we believe, or that we only trust. So that information should be very much clear or very much authentic or the real, right? Fifth, mass media and professional opportunities. So in the last part, in the fifth part, we will discuss about the professional opportunity, what we have in the field of mass media. As we all know now, mass media has enhanced, has growth very well. So if a person who are involved in it, what kind of professional opportunities he or she can have in such field. Okay, we are watching the news on the TV channels, or we are watching the different social media or any programs that were based on the documentary things. So these things or these kind of television programs received a well informative person who knows the knowledge of history, or they have the capacity to explain or communicate with the people, right? You have seen there are so many anchors which give news update on a daily basis or the hourly basis, but there are few channels or few programs that gives information about the past or the history. You are very much well aware of the channel called the History TV, or even a program called Oh My God India, where you have seen that anchor gives us information about the different or the important parts of the India, or the people of the India, that they had done a tremendous work in their own field. So in this way, step by step, we are going to learn or understand the topic. Okay, let's begin with the first topic, introduction to the mass media. What exactly is the mass media? Mass media contains two words. Mass media. They had two words, mass and media. So what does the mass mean and what does the media? Mass in this context means an aggregation of people. What do you mean aggregation? Aggregation means group or the number of people, right? And what is the media? Media is a medium, a way of communication, how we will communicate with other, right? In the past, we had seen few historical movies where the rulers sent the message with the help of any pigeon or any bird. Basically, you all had watched the movie Bahubali, right? In that you had seen how that eagle sends the message or transfer the message, right? Mass media. Mass media contains two words. Mass in this context means an aggregation of people. What is aggregation? Group or the number. Media means various modes of communication. Various modes mean various ways. There are so many ways to communicate. Nowadays we have lot of option. You can fax, you can email, you can make a call, or you can send a text, or even you can post a letter. So we have so many options. We have the fastest option with us. Thus, mass media is a field of mass communication. We can easily send some information to a faraway destination through a medium of communication. Right? Nowadays, it doesn't have any issues in sending message to any place or any where in all over the world with the fastest way we have. In olden days, if you talk about the past or the olden days, a crier would run in the streets beating drums and crying out important news according to the orders of the king. What does the crier means? A crier is a person who makes the public announcement. So a person has been appointed so that he should go through the village or go through the territory, beating the drums and louding or shouting the message about the new order or the law or any of the message that has been uh, dictated from the king. For example, many of you had watched always watched the cartoon character called Chota Bheem, right? In that serial or in that cartoon you had seen whenever a new thing happens, a person roaming around the village beating the drums and says the ढोलकपुर में ये होने वाला है, ढोलकपुर में नया कुछ इवेंट होगा या ढोलकपुर में अभी कुछ कोई प्रोग्राम होने वाला है, so that all people should come and join that celebration, right? So these thing happens. So a person, a crier, understood what is crier? A crier would run in the streets beating drums and crying out important news according to the orders of the king. The news would spread among people by word of mouth, and in this way, because at that time that social media or the WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, Insta, that things doesn't happen. So how would the king communicate with the people? So this was the way that the from the help of mouth or the words of mouth should communicate with the other people. Understood? So this is the one way. This is not the only way. It is one way. There are so many different ways from where the rulers or the people communicate with each other. History of mass media. Printing technology and newspaper were introduced in India after the arrival of British. As we all know, almost every inventions done during the British period, because we all know Europeans are the innovators. They had established very new or important inventions or concepts brought in the mankind. So since Britishers are staying here, they ruled for so many years in India. So in this way, they had brought so many changes in India also. That one of the important change or discovery that has in India is the printing press. Okay, with the help of the printing press, it happens that a same kind of book or same kind of information can be printed in many copies. So that is the most important thing. Printing technology and newspapers were introduced in India after the arrival of the British. People started receiving printed news through newspapers. Newspaper became the first mass medium of circulating information and knowledge among people. So after the invention of the printing press, the newspaper became the first mass medium from which many people can able to read the news or get information about the updates that happens nearby area or the nearby locations. So we all know what is newspaper. Newspaper is a publication, right, which mainly prints news, editorials, public opinions, entertaining or entertainment or other supplementary content. We all know the newspapers are the publication which prints news. It is a main you can say criteria or the main content of the newspaper. But other than the news also you had seen some kind of entertainment or the editorials. What are editorials? There are few columns left for the editors. They give their own view or their suggestions on different topic. We had seen there are different columns or different sections in the newspaper. Even we have a game section, like some jokes or some kind of entertainment. So these things we had in the newspaper, or even the supplementary content. We had seen some extra pages we find in the newspaper that gives us information about the different field. For example, sometimes you've seen there are few papers that gives you the information of the jobs, few papers gives us the information about the construction or the new buildings. It is a kind of advertisement or a kind of information to us. Sometimes you see there is an advertisement about any product, right? So these are the supplementary content. It is printed and distributed regularly at a definite time, and we all know newspaper printed at a definite fixed interval of time, and it's distributed to the people. Newspaper provide various local, national and international news. In newspaper we have both local, national, international. Newspapers are historical documents which record current event. So in this way newspaper are also the historical document. We all know, we already discussed in the 8th and 9th standard, newspaper are the written sources of history, right? Because the news which are written or printed in the newspaper, so these news can be stored as a part of history, as the information of history. So in future, in 5 years, after 5 years, 10 years or 50 years, if you have that cutting, so it will be a source of history for you, right? Like we all know, India won first World Cup in 1983. If your parents or anyone have that cutting of the newspaper, so if you see that cutting or the newspaper, it will be a source of history. Even and we know that in 2005 there was a huge or tremendous flood all over the Mumbai or most part of the India. We have every year we have the flood, but that year had impacted lot on economy or people's life. So if anyone have that cutting, so now after 15 years you can have that newspaper cutting or that article, then you can come the information that how it happened or what kind of loss it created, right? So in this way newspaper is an important source for the history also. Precursors of newspaper. What are precursors? Precursors किसको कहते हैं? Precursors means before that, which comes before that. If you talk about the precursors of newspaper, nowadays as we seen, even the newspaper are considered as the fourth pillar of democracy. Remember we had learned in 8th standard, newspaper are considered the fourth pillar of democracy. How come? What are the three important pillars of democracy? The three important pillars of democracy are legislative, executive and judiciary. So in the same way, newspaper are considered as the fourth pillar because of its importance, because of its functionality, right? So before newspaper, nowadays we have newspaper. So before newspaper, does people have any way of communication or spreading news or passing the news? Yes, we have. There are so many options, right? That is called the precursor. Precursor means that comes before. Before the beginning of the common era, there was a custom in Egypt of placing inscription with royal decrees. We know the meaning of inscription. Writing on something. Inscriptions means writing on something. It can be stone, it can be metal, it can be paper. Basically inscriptions doesn't happen on paper. It happens on the stone or the metals or any kind of material. Okay. सो इजिप्ट में पुराने ज़माने में जो वहाँ के रूलर्स होते थे इस तरह से सिस्टम यूज़ करते थे लोगों तक मैसेज पहुँचाने के लिए या अपना कोई भी इन्फॉर्मेशन लोगों तक पास करने के लिए. With royal decrees at public places. What are royal decrees? We know royal, king, empire. Decrees means order. So जो भी राजा के ऑर्डर होते थे या जो भी इंफॉर्मेशन होती थी वो लोगों को पहुँचाना था. तो जो भी कॉमन प्लेसेस होते हैं वहाँ पे वो ऐसे इंस्क्रिप्शंस लगा देते थे तो लोग आते जाते वो उसको पढ़ के समझ जाते थे कि हाँ ये नया चेंज है. अभी कैसे कुछ भी नया होता है अपडेट लॉ में या फिर कोई भी टैक्सेशन सिस्टम में तो न्यूज़पेपर्स में आ जाता है जिससे हमें पता चल जाता है या टीवी चैनल्स आ जाता है हमें पता चल जाता है. तो पहले इस तरह से लोगों को पता चलता था. Emperor Ashok, if we talk about the Emperor Ashok of our country, Emperor Ashok also resorted means fine, resorted to similar method to reach out his subjects. Subjects means people, the people or citizen. In the Roman Empire, royal decrees were written on papers and those were distributed in all region. Roman Empire के टाइम पे क्या करते थे कि जो भी royal orders हैं they write on the paper and distribute that paper among the people or their villages or the territory. They also contain the information of various events taking place in the nation and its capital. So these kind of informations are written on that paper. During Julius Caesar's reign, what is reign? Reign means period of rule. Reign means period of rule. So during the time of Julius Caesar, you know Julius Caesar was a great ruler. During the time of Julius Caesar's reign, newspaper known as Acta Diurna. What does it mean Acta Diurna? Acta Diurna means act of every day. Acta Diurna means act of every day. Used to be placed at public places in Rome. It was a very effective way of conveying royal commands to people. So it was a very effective way. जैसा मैंने कहा न्यूज़पेपर के अलावा और भी बहुत सारे ऑप्शंस थे. जैसे हमने देखा क्लियर एक ऑप्शन है, कहीं पे इंस्क्रिप्शंस लिख रहे हैं, कहीं पे पेपर्स डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर रहे हैं. सो ये भी एक इफेक्टिव है टू कन्वेइंग द मैसेज. व्हाट इज कन्वेइंग? पासिंग. व्हाट इज कन्वेइंग? कन्वेइंग्स मीन passing the message to the people or the citizen so that they also come to know the new change or the new beginning. In the 7th century CE, royal dictates were distributed among people at public places. What were the dictates? Dictate means to say something. Dictate karna, to say something in a loud manner so that the people could hear or understand. सो ये जो डिक्टेट्स होते थे वो लोगों तक कैसे पहुंचाते थे? इन द 7th century CE, रॉयल डिक्टेट्स वर डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड अमॉन्ग पीपल एट पब्लिक प्लेसेस. तो कोई भी पब्लिक प्लेस होता है, वहाँ पे जाके एक पर्सन चिल्ला रहा है. आप देखते थे आज माइक होती है, लाउड स्पीकर होते हैं, पहले नहीं होता था, तो चिल्ला के ही लोगों तक मैसेज पहुँचाया जाता था. In England, handouts used to be distributed occasionally. इंग्लैंड में ऐसा सिस्टम था कि हैंडआउट्स होते हैं. यू नो हैंडआउट्स, जैसे हमने पैम्पलेट्स देखे हुए हैं, इन्फॉर्मेशन होती है. कभी आप देखते हो कि कभी कोई न्यू सर्कस आ रहा है, कुछ है, तो जो छोटे छोटे हैंडआउट्स होते हैं, पैम्पलेट्स होते हैं, जो डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करता है कि लोगों को पता चले. या फिर कभी कोई कंप्यूटर कोर्स के होते हैं या कोई एडमिशन्स के लिए होता है. कभी कभी कोई मार्केट में सेल होता है, तो उसके हैंडआउट्स जो होते हैं लोगों को डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करते हैं कॉमन प्लेसेस पे, रेलवे स्टेशन पे. कभी कोई कोर्स है तो स्कूल के बाहर इंग्लिश स्पीकिंग कोर्सेज ऐसे होते हैं ना. तो ये सब क्या होता है, लोगों तक इन्फॉर्मेशन पहुँचने का तरीका होता है. तो इंग्लैंड में कुछ इस तरह का सिस्टम ओकेजनली, मतलब एट सम टाइम जब भी उनको जरूरत लगे तो लोगों तक डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करते थे. In England, handouts used to be distributed occasionally, giving information about wars or important events. Travelers arriving from far away would add spice to story from those places and narrate it to the local people. लोगों को कभी कभी ट्रैवलर से भी इंफॉर्मेशन मिलते थे. ट्रैवलर्स, you know, those who travel from one place to another, so they give the information about the different places to the people. But the problem is that they add spice. Spice means they are adding some of their own words or their imagination. हिंदी में कहते हैं ना मिर्च मसाला के बताना. तो शायद थोड़ा ड्रामेटिक वे में लोगों को बताते रहेंगे कि मैं वहाँ पे घूमने गया था, वहाँ पे मुझे ऐसे बर्फ़ के पहाड़ दिखे, वहाँ पे इतना बड़ा जंगल दिखा, समंदर ह्यूज था. तो शायद वैसा होगा, बट थोड़ा वो लोग उसके ऊपर थोड़ा बोलते हैं ना स्पाइस और बटर लगा के लोगों को बताते थे. Travelers arriving from far away would add spice to stories from those places and narrate it to the local people. The ambassadors of a king posted at various places would send back important news to the royal court. The ambassadors, who are the ambassadors? Representatives. So जो ambassadors होते हैं, अभी राजा पूरी टेरिटरी में तो खुद अकेले वो मैनेज नहीं कर पाएगा. So for the administrative purpose, he had appointed, or they used to appoint ambassadors. They are the representative of the किंग. दे आर पोस्टेड डिफरेंट प्लेसेस. तो जो टेरिटरी में उनका पोस्टिंग है, जहाँ पे वो पोस्टेड हैं, तो वो वहाँ की इंफॉर्मेशन जो है वो किंग तक पहुँचाएंगे. द एम्बेसडर्स ऑफ अ किंग पोस्टेड वेरियस प्लेसेस वुड सेंड बैक इंपॉर्टेंट न्यूज़ टू द रॉयल कोर्ट. तो वो जो भी इन्फॉर्मेशन होती थी, डेली एक्टिविटी या वीकली एक्टिविटी, वो रॉयल कोर्ट में बताते थे कि वहाँ पे ऐसा हो रहा है, वो इन्फॉर्मेशन है, या फिर कुछ बॉर्डर इश्यूज़ हैं, डिस्प्यूट्स हैं, या कोई उनको लग रहा है वॉर सिनेरियो है, तो दे गिव द इन्फॉर्मेशन टू द किंग. ओके, सो लेट्स बिगिन विद द start or the beginning of the newspaper. So the first newspaper, that is called as the Bengal Gazette. It was the English newspaper that was started by the Britishers, or that during the time of Britishers. So name of the newspaper was Bengal Gazette. The first English newspaper of India was printed on 29th of January 1780. It was named as Kolkata General Advisor or the Bengal Gazette. It was started by James Augustus Hickey, an Irish gentleman. So ये Irish means he belongs to the Ireland. As we all know, Ireland, Scotland, England, they all together form Britain. Usually we get confused about the England or the Great Britain, right? हम लोग ग्रेट ब्रिटेन या ब्रिटेन और इंग्लैंड को सेम समझते हैं, सेम ही है. बट क्या है, ग्रेट ब्रिटेन अगर हम इंग्लैंड और की बात करें तो इंग्लैंड, आयरलैंड, स्कॉटलैंड, ये सबको मिला के बनता है ग्रेट ब्रिटेन. ओके, तो ये पर्सन भी उसी रीजन, समझो ब्रिटेन से बिलोंग करता था. तो ये पहला पर्सन था, कौन? जेम्स ऑगस्टस हिकी. whenever you find such kind of name, na, underline it, underline the name, underline the newspaper. Okay, So the first Indian newspaper was Bengal Gazette. It was started by James Augustus Hickey. टेक्स्ट बुक में जेम्स ऑगस्टस हिकी का पिक्चर भी दिया हुआ है. It was started by James Augustus Hickey, an Irish gentleman. Okay, next is Darpan. Why Darpan is very much important? Because Darpan was the first newspaper that started by any Indian. Understood? Bengal Gazette was the first newspaper that was printed in India, but it was started by the outsider, or you can say the Britishers, right? But Darpan was the newspaper that started by an Indian. So Darpan plays a very important role in our Indian history. Again, underline the name of Darpan and the founder or the editor of the Darpan. Okay? The newspaper Darpan was started in 1832 in Mumbai. Bal Shastri Jambekar was the editor of Darpan. So who was that great person? Bal Shastri Jambekar. भले ये दर्पण मराठी में प्रिंट होता था या पब्लिश होता था, बट ये हमारी इंडिया का पहला न्यूज़पेपर था जो किसी इंडियन ने शुरू किया था. और इसका पब्लिकेशन कहाँ पे शुरू हुआ था? मुंबई में, इन द ईयर 1832. और क्योंकि बाल शास्त्री जाम्बेकर जी ने ये बहुत ही इम्पॉर्टेंट काम किया था, एक इनोवेशन लाया था हमारे इंडियंस के बीच में, इसीलिए इनकी याद में इनके बर्थडे को एडिटर डे सेलिब्रेट किया था. वी ऑल नो ऐसे बहुत सारे फेमस पर्सनैलिटीज़ हैं जिनके बर्थडे पे अलग अलग डे हम सेलिब्रेट करते हैं. लाइक जैसे डॉक्टर APJ अब्दुल कलाम हुए, या फिर अभी आप रिसेंटली एग्जांपल अगर आप देखो तो टीचर्स डे, राइट? टीचर्स डे ऑल्सो सेलिब्रेटेड in the memory of Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, right? Because he was a great person. He had brought so many changes or improvement in the field of education. So in this way, Editors Day also celebrated. You can find in the Do You Know section. Shall I read it? Do You Know section? Bal Shastri Jambekar is referred to as the first editor by the virtue of being the editor of the first Marathi newspaper. His birth date, 6th January, is observed in Maharashtra as the Patrakar Din, that is the Journalist Day. पत्रकार हिंदी में बोलते हैं, जर्नलिस्ट को पत्रकार बोलते हैं. We all remember the name Patrakar Popatlal. Like he's a journalist. So in this way, Journalist Day is celebrated on 6th January every year in the memory of Bal Shastri Jambekar. Okay, underline this also. It's very much important for us. So let's take some more information about the Darpan. The news in Darpan can be reviewed to know about the political, economic, social and cultural events of those time. Here are a few news titles as example. अभी उस ज़माने में दर्पण ने बहुत सारे इंपॉर्टेंट न्यूज़ प्रिंट हुए रहेंगे, बहुत सारी रेवोल्यूशन और चेंजेस लाए होंगे. कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट हेडलाइंस हैं यहाँ पे दिए हैं, टाइटल, जिसको हम थोड़ा समझेंगे. डिटेल में तो नहीं दिया है, जस्ट उनके टाइटल्स दिए हैं तो हम समझ सकते हैं थोड़ा. जैसे कि द फर्स्ट, द अकाउंट्स ऑफ एक्सपेंडिचर फ्रॉम दी थ्री एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव डिवीजन ऑफ द ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी. उस ज़माने में ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी हमारे कंट्री में एक ट्रेडिंग कंपनी थी, तो उनके जो भी अकाउंट्स होंगे, जो भी एक्सपेंसेस होंगे, उसका कोई भी इंफॉर्मेशन शायद उस ज़माने में दर्पण में प्रिंट हुआ रहेगा. समझ रहे हो हम क्या पढ़ रहे हैं? हम कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट न्यूज़ आर्टिकल्स और न्यूज़ हेडलाइंस पढ़ रहे हैं जो उस ज़माने में दर्पण में प्रिंट हुए थे, क्योंकि दर्पण के थ्रू लोगों तक बहुत सारी इंफॉर्मेशन पहुँच रही थी. The accounts of the expenditure we know, expenses from the three administrative divisions of the East India Company. Second, the danger of Russian attack on the nation. मे भी शायद उस ज़माने में ब्रिटिशर्स का और रशियन का कुछ झगड़ा होगा, जिससे हमारे देश में रशियन लोग अटैक करने वाले होंगे या प्लानिंग होगी, तो उसकी इन्फॉर्मेशन भी न्यूज़पेपर में आई थी. अपॉइंटमेंट ऑफ अ कमिटी फॉर क्लीनलीनेस ऑफ सिटी. सिटी को क्लीनलीनेस के लिए सपोर्ट करने के लिए, इंपॉर्टेंस देने के लिए कोई कमेटी बनी होगी. कमेटी समझते ना, टीम, अ टीम ऑफ पीपल्स कॉल्ड कमेटी. तो ये भी न्यूज़ आया था न्यूज़पेपर में. री मैरिज ऑफ हिंदू विडोज़, क्योंकि ये उस ज़माने में बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट था. ये चेंज था, लॉर्ड डलहौजी ने चेंज लाया था. री मैरिज ऑफ विडोज़, वी नो विडोज़, द वुमन हुज हस्बैंड हैज़ बीन डाइड. सो सच पर्सन्स और सच वुमन आर नॉट अलाउड टू स्टे अ रेगुलर लाइफ, right? But since so many changes brought in the system or the law, so this widow remarriage system has been started. तो ये जब शायद शुरू हुआ रहेगा तो न्यूज़पेपर में आया होगा ताकि लोगों को पता चले. The inception of theatre at Calcutta. What is inception? What is inception? Inception means establishment, beginning. तो शायद उस ज़माने में कोई थिएटर शुरू हुआ रहेगा कोलकाता में, वो भी न्यूज़ आया. आज हमारे लिए थिएटर बहुत ही कॉमन है, हम मल्टीप्लेक्सेस थिएटर देख के हम लोग कुछ ज़्यादा एक्साइट नहीं होते, बट उस ज़माने शायद लोगों ने ये जब फर्स्ट टाइम देखा होगा उनको बहुत ही खुशी मिली होगी, तो ये भी न्यूज़पेपर में आया था. अचीवमेंट्स ऑफ राजा राम मोहन रॉय इन इंग्लैंड. उस ज़माने में राजा राम मोहन रॉय ने इंग्लैंड में कुछ अच्छा काम किया होगा, अच्छी स्पीच दी होगी, कुछ रिमार्केबल इम्प्रूवमेंट लाया होगा राजा राम मोहन रॉय ने, तो उनके बारे में भी न्यूज़ में लिखा हुआ था न्यूज़पेपर में. रिपोर्टिंग ऑफ सच न्यूज़ थ्रोज लाइट ऑन द वेरियस हिस्टोरिकल इवेंट ऑफ दोज डेज. तो इस तरह से जो न्यूज़पेपर का काम था कि इम्पॉर्टेंट इवेंट्स को हाईलाइट करना, लोगों तक पहुंचाना, तो बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट और रिमार्केबल थिंग था, राइट. नेक्स्ट इंपॉर्टेंट इफ यू टॉक अबाउट द न्यूज़पेपर इज द प्रभाकर. अगर दर्पण तो हमारे इंपॉर्टेंट है, उसी तरह से प्रभाकर की हम बात करें तो बहुत सारे इंपॉर्टेंट न्यूज़ उस ज़माने में प्रभाकर ने भी प्रिंट किए हैं और लोगों तक पहुंचाए हैं. द न्यूज़पेपर वॉज स्टार्टेड बाई भाऊ महाजन. रिमेंबर दिस, अंडरलाइन द न्यूज़पेपर and name of the person who started that newspaper. The newspaper was started by Bhau Mahajan. The history of French Revolution and Shatabdi, the letters by Lokit Wadi aimed at creating social awareness were published in this newspaper. कुछ important letters लोकित वाड़ी, जिनको हम लोग उनको फेमसली लोकित वाड़ी कहते हैं, अलायस नेम है, बट उनका रियल नाम क्या है, गोपाल हरि देशमुख. उनके कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट लेटर्स और उनके कुछ आर्टिकल्स कॉल्ड शताब्दी, तो ये सब चीज़ें उस टाइम पे न्यूज़पेपर में प्रिंट हुई थी ताकि लोगों तक भी पहुँचे और उनको मालूम पड़े. वेर पब्लिश इन दिस न्यूज़पेपर. ध्यानोदय. Same Dyanodaya also played a very important role in this. Dyanodaya printed the map of Asia in 1842 and the map of Europe in 1851. Okay, Dyanodaya printed the map of Asia in 1842 and the map of Europe in 1851. So, printing map, you will say sir printing map इतना कौन सा बड़ा काम है, but imagine the period 1842 and 1851, right? In those period, seeing a map in the newspaper is a big thing. या लोगों ने शायद कहीं मैप देखा ही ना हो, न्यूज़पेपर में प्रिंट हुआ तो देखा होगा, तो उनको समझ में आएगा कि अच्छा ऐसा मैप दिखता है एशिया, या इंडिया का ऐसा मैप है, या वर्ल्ड का ऐसा मैप है, यूरोप का ऐसा मैप है. इमेजिन आज हम लोग गूगल में सर्च करते हैं, बाहर हमें मार्केट से प्रिंट आउट मिलते हैं या मैप ऑलरेडी बना बनाया मिलता है, बट सोचो उस ज़माने में लोगों ने जब ये मैप के रेप्लिकाज देखें, रेप्लिका जैसा ही बना हुआ होगा, सोचो इतना प्रॉपर बाउंड्रीज भी नहीं होगा, प्रॉपर नहीं होगा मैप, लेकिन फिर भी लोगों को कितनी खुशी होगी. सो सच काइंड ऑफ प्राउड people feel while seeing this map in the newspaper, or that important role has been done by the Dyanodaya. The honor, the respect, the good feeling, the honor of printing an illustration in an Indian newspaper for the first time goes to the Dyanodaya. What is illustration? It kind of replica. Illustrated means जो exactly correct ना हो. आज आप देखते हो ज्योग्राफी की टेक्स्ट बुक में देखते हो लैटिट्यूड, लॉन्गिट्यूड्स, राइट, मिनट्स, सेकेंड्स, एवरी पर्टिकुलर southern hemisphere, northern hemisphere, equator, we know everything, the proper representation. even अगर आपके घर पे मैप होगा वर्ल्ड का या फिर ग्लोब होगा, आप देखोगे किस तरह से प्रॉपर एकदम उस पर मार्किंग होते हैं, उस पर पूरे डिग्रीज होते हैं और लोकेशन फाइंड कर सकते हैं. बट उस ज़माने में अगर इमेजिनेशन से भी अगर मैप बनाया जाए तो कितना बड़ी बात है. आज हमारे पास सैटेलाइट्स हैं, सैटेलाइट्स की मदद से हम बाउंड्रीज को या टेरिटरी को आराम से आइडेंटिफाई कर सकते हैं. उस ज़माने में सब चीज़ नहीं थी, फिर भी सोचो अगर ऐसा इलस्ट्रेशन भी बने, इट्स अ वेरी गुड थिंग. द न्यूज़ ऑफ इंस्टॉलेशन ऑफ टेलीग्राफ. टेलीग्राफ इज अ काइंड ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन दैट डन विद द हेल्प ऑफ वायर्स. जैसे टेलीफोन होते हैं, आज आप देखते हो टेलीफोन भी वायर से नहीं होते हैं, सिग्नल्स होते हैं ना, अब जगह जगह सिग्नल्स होते हैं. पहले टेलीफोन भी ना वायर से कम्युनिकेट होते थे. तो पहले टेलीग्राफ होता था, थोड़ा फास्टेस्ट वे होता था कम्युनिकेशन का. जब उसका इंस्टॉलेशन शुरू हुआ तो ये भी न्यूज़ में है, लोगों के लिए भी बहुत बड़ी बात है, ऐसा कुछ हो रहा है हमारे देश में. The news of installation of telegraph used for the electrically transmitting a news can be seen in Dyanodaya. The news of the starting of railways in India was printed in Dyanodaya under the title Chakya Mahasubha. So another, when the railways started, so people are amazed. आज जब लोकल ट्रेन, मेट्रो ट्रेन, बुलेट ट्रेन भी देख लेते हो आपको कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता, बिकॉज आपने ऑलरेडी ये सब देखा हुआ है, टीवी देखा हुआ है। आप लोगों ने बहुत लोगों ने मेट्रो में ट्रैवल किया है, अभी कुछ दिन में हमारे कंट्री में बुलेट ट्रेन आएगा, वो भी ट्रैवल कर लोगे। आपने हाई स्पीड ट्रेन टीवी में देखे हुए, तो अगर आप कभी फॉरेन कंट्री जाते हो तो आप देख के कुछ शॉक नहीं होगे। बट लेकिन उस जमाने जब लोग देखते थे, जब शुरू हुआ था रेलवे, तो लोग वो सरप्राइज फील होता था कि ऐसे कैसे पॉसिबल है कि इतना पूरा एक व्हीकल रन कर रहा है ट्रैक पे और कैसे स्पीड में जा रहा है। So then this news was print under a title called Chakya Masoba. We all know a Masoba. Masoba means it's a deity god. Basically buffalo, राइट? कैसे बफेलो डाइटी गॉड मानते हैं मसोबा बोल के, तो हमारा ऐसा मानना था कि जो हमारे डाइटी गॉड है, डाइटी बफेलो हैं, उनको व्हील्स लग गए हैं, समझ रहे हो? अभी वो व्हील्स पे चलेंगे। सो इट्स अ न्यू थिंग, अ न्यू इनोवेशन. The news of the starting of railways in India was printed in Danode under the title Chakya Masoba, meaning Masoba with wheels. It had also printed the news of the Indian War of Independence of 1857. We all know the story of the Indian War of 1857. 8th में पढ़ा था हम लोग ने। तो इसकी जो स्टोरी है वो भी उस ज़माने में इस दैनोदय न्यूज़पेपर में प्रिंट हुई थी, ताकि लोगों ने अगर उस जमाने बुक्स नहीं पढ़े हो, उनको इसके बारे में ना पता हो, तो लोगों में अवेयरनेस भी फैल रहा था। तो सोचो हमारे फ्रीडम स्ट्रगल में भी कितना इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले करते थे ये न्यूज़पेपर्स, राइट? Newspapers in those times were a very important medium of creating social awareness. So newspaper plays a very important role creating in the social awareness. People should know, people should get informed what's going on there nearby or in the government or the changes, freedom struggle, what kind of propagation happening in the country. So these kind of information they are getting from the newspapers. A newspaper named Indu Prakash supported widow remarriage in a big way. So there are so many social things that needs to be improved. So a newspaper called Hindu Prakash, they give more support for the widow remarriage. Maybe शायद वो न्यूज़ को प्रिंट करते हो बार बार, या लोगों के अंदर मोटिवेशन लाने के लिए, अवेयरनेस लाने के लिए प्रिंट करते हो. Deen Bandhu, a newspaper representing the masses of the Indian society. Deen Bandhu basically it was the considered as the people who belongs to the lower caste, right? Bahujan Samaj was started by Mahatma Jyotirao Phule. Okay, so if you talk about the Hindu Prakash, it done a remarkable change in the widow remarriage. Even if you say the Deen Bandhu, it gives more information about the people who belongs to the lower caste or lower category, or basically Bahujan Samaj, or people who belongs to the lower caste and creed. So this newspaper was started by Mahatma Jyotirao Phule. Underline the name of newspaper and the editor, or you can say the person who started the newspaper. Sorry, it was started by the Mahatma Jyotirao Phule's friend or the close associate. Deen Bandhu, a newspaper representing the masses of the Indian society, was started by Mahatma Jyotirao Phule's close associate, or you can say colleague, Krishna Rao Balekar. We get to know about the issues relating to the masses through this newspaper. Masses means people, group. तो क्या क्या प्रॉब्लम्स होते हैं, वी कैन कम टू नो अबाउट फ्रॉम दी न्यूज़पेपर. अंडरस्टूड? नेक्स्ट, केसरी एंड मराठा. May most of you all also listen the name of the Kesari and Maratha. It is a very famous newspaper that were started by the Lokmanya Tilak, Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Right? Lokmanya Tilak or Bal Gangadhar Tilak had started so many newspaper for the propagation of the news or for the freedom struggle. But these two newspaper played a very important role. Which? Kesari and Maratha. Okay? Kesari and Maratha are the two important newspaper, are indicative of the important stage in the history of Indian newspapers before independence. If you talk about the important newspapers that had been done a tremendous work in the field of struggle, they are the Kesari and Maratha before the independence. Gopal Ganesh Agarkar and Bal Gangadhar Tilak started these papers in 1881. Okay, Gopal Ganesh Agarkar and Bal Gangadhar Tilak started these papers in 1881. So these two people had started this paper in the year 1881. They spoke about the social and political issues of that period. So there are so many issues. Freedom struggle was one of the important aspect at that time. But other than the freedom struggle, there are so many things that needs to be changed in our society. People needs to raise their voice against such issues. So these things are printed in the newspaper on those time. They spoke about the social and political issues of that period. Kesari began to publish articles about the nationwide situations, books in the native language, and the politics in England. Native language means local languages. In the 21st century, newspaper have continued to fulfill an important role. Even today, newspaper played a very important role in the past, in the history, but today also newspaper plays a very important role. We had already learned in 8th and 9th standard the importance of newspaper. Today also we have so many options of the social media or the news channels, but again in our home every day we have a newspapers. So newspaper plays an inseparable part of our life, which cannot be separated, right? It became our day-to-day life's activity, reading the newspaper or getting information from the newspaper. In the 21st century, newspapers have continued to fulfill an important role. It was acknowledged as the fourth column of the democracy, and because of its important work, it is called the fourth column or the fourth pillar of the democracy. Such kind of important role we had seen the newspaper plays in the past and even today also. Right? Understood?